Hey, welcome to 12-Tone Building Blocks, our monthly series about the fundamentals of music theory. Last time we covered what notes are and how we talk about them, but maybe even more important is how we write them down. Musical notation lets us store and communicate whole songs without making a sound, but it can be a little daunting if you don't know how it works. Take this for instance, I can tell you it's the Imperial March, but to most people it just looks like gibberish. How do these dots and lines become music? Well, let's start at the beginning. Each of these sets of 5 lines is called a staff, and each line and each space represents a different natural note. But unfortunately, they don't always represent the same note. Instruments play in all sorts of different ranges, and 5 lines just isn't enough to show everything at once. Instead, we use what are called clefts. A clef is a symbol at the beginning of a staff that tells you which notes the staff covers. There are lots of different clefs, but the 2 most common ones are treble and bass. In between them sits a very important note called middle C. From there we can go up into the treble clef with D, E, F, G, and so on, or down into the bass with B, A, G, F, and continuing down. Learning to read these instinctively takes time and practice, but there's a few tricks you can use to pick it up faster. For instance, you can remember the lines of the treble clef with a mnemonic elephants grow big dangly faces, and the bass clef can be gummy bears don't feel anything. And adding accidentals is easy, you just find the natural note it's next to and then put a sharp or flat in front of it. Simple. So that's how we write pitches, but that's not enough. We also have to write down how long the note lasts. We do this by changing what the note head looks like. Let's start with one of our biggest values, the whole note. It's just a circle. We can split it into half notes which add a stem, quarter notes with filled in heads, eighth notes which beam together in pairs, then we can keep adding beams for 16th notes, 32nd notes, and so on. Each kind is half as long as the one above it. If that's not enough, we can also represent some more complicated rhythmic values. Adding a dot after the note, for instance, makes it 50% longer, so a dotted quarter note gets held as long as a quarter note and an eighth put together. If you need even weirder combinations, you can use ties to combine any 2 rhythmic values you can think of. And if you want nothing played at all, you can use rests. These are kinda weird and arbitrary, you just have to learn which ones mean what. Sorry. The last thing we need to track is where the accents fall. We do this with a time signature which looks sort of like a fraction. The top number tells us how many beats are in a bar, and the bottom number tells us what kind of note counts as a beat. Popular time signatures include 4/4, 3/4, 6/8, and 2/2, each with its own unique feel. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Like anything else, it takes some getting used to, and if you really want to learn this stuff, there's no substitute for just sitting down and practicing. But hopefully this has at least given you some idea what's going on when we write music down. Anyway, thanks for watching. Building Blocks was made possible thanks to our patrons on Patreon, so if you want to see more stuff like this, please consider supporting. You can also join our mailing list for scans of all our episodes. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep on rockin'.